Hello and welcome to Talk to Stu with me, Stuart Magoo. Hope everyone is doing well and thank you for joining me for another one of my FAQs videos. In this one we are going to be talking about the severe disability premium. Does it apply to you? Is it something that you can claim for? What are the conditions? And how do you go about claiming for it if you need to? And also, what are the pitfalls? Because there are one or two associated with this. I will talk also a little bit about some of the other premiums that could be linked to your claim. So let's get into it now. Okay, so what is a severe disability premium? So a severe disability premium is an extra bit of money that is added to one of a few benefits. So that might be income-related employment support allowance, income-related job seekers allowance, or pension credit. So those are the three main ones. Now, sometimes it does apply to other benefits as well, but it's not very common where it does. Okay, so we're not going to focus on those for the time being. Now, what you need to be able to get this extra premium is to also be in receipt of another qualifying benefit. So that would be disability living allowance, attendance allowance, or personal independence payment. And with those, you need to be receiving them at the standard rate, and for DLA it has to be as minimum the middle rate. Okay, so not many people are on DLA anymore. Most people on DLA have been transitioned over to personal independence payment by now, but of course children's DLA does still apply to a great many people. And yes, so the care component must be received at the middle rate. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, I'm not going to talk about specific amounts for those who are sort of looking at that, because the amounts change all the time, mostly because of inflationary increases. So if you happen to be watching this video in a year or two's time, yeah, the rates might be different to what they are now as I'm making it. So I'm not going to mention the rates. So the severe disability premium is then awarded to you if there's another condition that comes with this, if you have those benefits as mentioned, and also you are considered to be living alone. Okay, and if you're living alone, that no one is receiving carers allowance for looking after you in any way, shape or form. Okay, so if someone is receiving carers allowance for looking after you, it will mean that they're providing care to you for 30 hours a week or more. So they're around a lot of the time, and that's what will get them to qualify for carers allowance. But assuming that you don't have anybody getting carers allowance for looking after you, if you are living on your own and you're in receipt of those two benefits, then you may well qualify for the severe disability premium. Now, of course, most people have come round to the knowledge that if they're receiving employment support allowance currently, that they may at some point transition over to universal credit. And the end date for those transitions to happen is 2028. Now, you might think, oh, well, should I wait until I go over onto universal credit and sort it out then? No, do not delay. The SDP doesn't exist in universal credit. Okay, the severe disability premium is not something that factors into universal credit. Okay, so if it is something you think you might qualify for and you don't already have, then it is something that you need to look into as soon as possible. If you have the severe disability premium awarded to you and then you do move over onto universal credit, then the amount that you receive will come under transitional protection, which means that that SDP element will be reflected in the universal credit award that you get. Okay, but there are a couple of provisos with this. So the first The first proviso is that the transitional element of your move from ESA over to universal credit, the transitional amount that you receive is not linked to inflationary increases. So in April, coming up at the moment, this is March, in first week of April, I think the 6th or the 7th, we'll be seeing an increase in, it might even be sooner than that, maybe even the 2nd. We'll be seeing increases of 6.7%. I think that's maybe where I got 6 and 7 from. I'm all at 6s and 7s. Anyway, we'll be seeing an increase of 6.7% to the majority of the benefits. However, the transitional amount that people receive will not see an increase. So if you're on universal credit and you were previously on ESA and you've moved over and your universal credit amount increases, your transitional amount will not. So it won't go up to match, it will stay as the amount that they decided it was when you transitioned. So that's the first thing. The other proviso is that if it should be that your circumstances change in some way, then you may lose your entitlement to the SDP transitional element. Okay, so an example of this, recently I've been helping a gentleman who's had who was on income-related JSA and was moved over onto universal credit and received the SDP element. But he was then, because he was on JSA before, he wasn't in the limited capability for work-related activity group, nor was he in the support group. So when he moved over onto universal credit, he had to go through the work capability assessment and was then put in the limited capability for work-related activity group, which is the equivalent of the support group on ESA, which meant that he lost his SDP element. He, of course, thought this was wrong, and he was right. There was a court case about it last year, and it was decided that anybody who was receiving the SDP element, who then moved over onto that and then lost it because of a change in circumstances such as that, where they were then moved into a group like that, if they were receiving that before the 4th of before February 2024, then they could go back and have and request, it's not guaranteed that they'll get it, but request that that transitional element be reinstated. Okay, so in certain circumstances, it might be that if you've had a change in circumstances, you've done the transitional thing, and you've lost the SDP element, that as long as certain qualifying criteria are in place, it may well be that you qualify for having that reinstated. Okay, so do check that. It's worth looking at. But anyway, getting back to it. So you're on income-related ESA or income-related JSA or pension credit. You have one of those qualifying benefits and you live with somebody else. So will you be able to get it? Well, if the person that you're living with is also on pension credit or income-related ESA and they're in the support group, and if they're also, or the limited capability for work group, or they are in receipt of income-related JSA and also in receipt of one of those benefits as well. So if they're exactly the same as you are, then that means that you and they are both treated as if living alone, because essentially you both would need somebody looking after you, but there's no one to look after you both. Okay, so quite often that would apply. The most common example of this is to people over pension age who are both receiving attendance allowance and both claiming pension credit. So they're getting both of those things, and they can get the severe disability premium applied to their thing. Now, you don't get double the amount, although it's called a double award. You don't get double the amount, but you get almost double the amount that you would under the SDP. So in that situation, If you're both in the same circumstances, then you're treated as living alone. Okay, so if you have a family member who is living with you or a friend who is of working age and or is, getting an income and doesn't have a health condition and doesn't qualify for one of those qualifying benefits, the personal independence payment DLA, or what was the other one? Attendance allowance. So if you haven't got one of those, then that person is considered as somebody who is living with you, who could potentially be looking after you, even if they're not receiving carer's allowance. Okay, so in that circumstance, you wouldn't qualify for the severe disability premium. Okay, so it is only if you're living on your own. Now, if you happen to be living in shared accommodation, then essentially you are still treated as living on your own. So if you live in a shared house where there's sort of 4 or 5 people and you all have separate rooms and you live independently of each other, you don't really know each other, sort of thing, and you're treated as having an individual address within that house, within that house, so there's 4 separate homes inside one house, then you will still qualify as living alone. So if you're in any doubt with this, just get in touch with them and go over it, because it will they will look at all the information that you've provided, whether you've got those qualifying benefits in place and whether or not this applies, and they will tell you whether or not it is something that you can have. So it might be that you need to phone the pension credit support line. They tend to be very good. If you are on if you are on income-related ESA, then you will need to phone either the ESA support line or your job centre where your claim was set up, and the same with income-related JSA. What about, you may have heard of the enhanced disability premium. So this is when the severe disability premium gets enhanced by a little bit more. It's not a great deal more, but it can make a difference to a lot of people. So would you qualify for that as well? Well, basically, if you are on the higher rate of personal independence payment for the care component, the enhanced rate, and if you are on the higher rate for children's DLA or DLA, and if you are on the just those two, and you're also on income-related ESA or income-related job seekers allowance, then this might be something additional that you can have added on as well. So it is important when you phone up and make that call that you make it clear what level of personal independence payment or DLA you're on. Now you'll have noticed I didn't mention pension credit or attendance allowance in that, and that's because it doesn't apply to people of pensionable age. Okay, so the enhanced disability premium isn't there for people of pensionable age. Okay, so one final premium that I will mention now is the carer's premium. So the carer's premium is something that you can have applied, and I think it does exist in the same way under universal credit as well, so it's something that you can look into there. So if somebody is caring for you and they're in receipt of carer's allowance and you're also in receipt of those benefits and they're on a qualifying benefit themselves like universal credit or employment support allowance or whatever, but they're receiving, or even pension, they may be getting their state pension. State pension is a benefit. If they are receiving that and they have either got carer's allowance or they have an underlying entitlement to carer's allowance. Okay, so if you've got carer's underlying entitlement to carer's allowance, it means that you've got some other form of income, which might be a state pension or income-related ESA or universal credit. So you've got that, but you've got the underlying entitlement, which means that you don't get the carer's allowance on top of it. but it does mean that you are recognised as caring for somebody for 30 hours a week or more. If that's the case, then you might be able to get the carers element added to your claim as well. So if you're a carer, or you're in a family where you're caring for a child and you're receiving carers allowance or carers allowance entitlement, underlying entitlement, then that's worth asking as to whether the care premium could be added in your case as well. They may say no, and there may be other reasons that I'm not aware of in your claim that prevent you from getting it, but it's always worth asking. Okay, so that's a sort of general overview of premiums and how they might be applied. There are other types of premiums as well, which are added to working tax credits or housing benefit, things like that. Those aren't really my specialist area, so I'm not going to go into them. But if you've got any doubts or queries, or you need to know more about that, there are some links below in the description of this video. So click on some of those links. You'll be able to do a benefit check for yourself using the Turn to Us benefits calculator, or use the Turn to Us advice finder, and you might be able to find someone locally to you who will be able to go through it with you and tell you what it is. But don't be afraid to phone up the DWP and ask and get them to check for you. You know, that's what they're there for as well. So yeah, obviously you can be stuck on the phone for quite a while listening to the hold music, but nonetheless, once you get through, that should be something that they can talk you through. Okay, so if that was helpful to you, then please like, share and subscribe, and do follow the channel. Don't forget, once a month I do the live Q&A show where people can join me and my compadres to ask me questions on benefits and filling out PIP forms and all those kind of things, and also health and social care as well. So I know quite a bit about those kind of things too. So feel free, it's a lovely community, do join us on that. It's usually the first Tuesday of the month, though I do put updates to say if there's any changes to the broadcast date for that one, and also I do my news updates and how to fill in forms, videos and things like that. So do dig into that. And yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day, or the best day that you can depending on your circumstances. And yeah, I'll look forward to hopefully seeing some of you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.